Thanks, Ian. Yeah, hello everybody. I'm Anna, and I'm here with Sharon as well, and we're from Seeds for Change, which is basically we're a co-op that's based in Lancaster in England, and we run like workshops and training, and we make resources for campaign groups. So we work with lots of different campaign groups, and today we're doing a workshop about consensus decision making, and particularly like how you can use consensus with young people. So we'll just start off with a round of introductions, I think. So if you could just say your name and your pronouns, if you want to share that, and maybe something good in your week, like something nice that you've done this week, or that something you're looking forward to, and then just say the next person's name and we'll pass it on like that. So yeah, I'm Anna and I use she, her pronouns, and I had a nice swim in the sea this morning. I will pass to Julia.
Hi, my name is Julia, and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm looking forward. My brother's coming for dinner later, so I'm looking forward to seeing him. I haven't seen him in a while. Yeah. I'll pass it to Ashlyn.
Hi, sorry, I missed the second question there. What's the second thing we're supposed to say?
Something you're looking forward to, or that you enjoyed in the week.
All right. Hi, I'm Ashlyn. I'm going out for dinner on Friday, so looking forward to that. And I'll pass it on to Aideen.
Hi, my name is Aideen, and I have nothing exciting coming up this week that I can think of. So watching TV and walking the dog is probably all I'm looking forward to. I'll pass it on to Nancy.
How you doing? I'm Nancy, one of the coordinators here, and she, her pronouns, and I'm looking forward to going to a yoga class tomorrow, I hope. And I will pass it on to Casey.
I'm Casey, she, her, and one of the teachers brought in scones today. Pass it on to Aideen. Is Aideen being called?
Yep.
Kate.
Kate might be tied up.
If Kate's tied up, I can go. Give her 3 seconds. Cool. I'm Sharon, and people call me Shaz or Shazza, anything like that. And I'm looking forward to converting a barn, and I'm told that we might be able to, for the first time, have upstairs lights on this evening, which would be very exciting. I will call on Sian.
I'm Sian. I go by she, her, or they, them pronouns. And this week, I've actually been in good form and getting lots of work done. So that's a bit boring, but it has been exciting and a relief. And I think everybody has gone unless Kate is back.
Yep. Right, backwards move. It's just I'm Kate, I'm she, her, and something interesting in the week, was it?
Something you enjoyed or are looking forward to?
Saturday, June. I'm looking forward to June. Yeah, that's how I am at the moment. Was I meant to pass it? Everybody's gone.
I think everybody's gone apart from Cheryl, who's just joined us. If Cheryl's there, we were just saying our name and something that we've done this week or looking forward to this week. if you're there, Cheryl.
What's wrong? Hello, yeah, I'm Cheryl. I teach with Julia and Jerry-Ann, who I believe is joining this later, and Ashlyn. I'm in Cork Educate Together. I don't actually teach climate action, I teach sustainability, which is kind of the old model of the course. So I have second and third years at the moment. What I'm looking forward to this week is getting all my exam corrections finished, because I just want to get them out of the way. We're in the midst of our assessment week. So yeah, looking forward to having those behind me. Oh, do I need to pass it on to someone?
I think everybody's said hi now, so thank you very much. Over to you, Shaz.
Woo! Were you going to talk us through the agenda quickly? Or...
Yes, I was. You're right. Thanks. Okay. So yeah, this is the agenda for today. It's just loading. Hang on. There we go. So we're going to talk about what is consensus, the benefits of consensus as a decision-making process, the consensus process, all the steps that's involved in consensus. Then we're going to have a break for 10 minutes, like halfway through, and then we're going to talk about ways of agreeing and disagreeing, conditions for consensus, and then the last sort of half an hour will be passing on this knowledge and skills to young people. Does anybody have any questions about any of that at this moment? Cool. All right, I'm going to stop screen sharing.
Thanks, Anna. Yes, I'm Sharon, facilitating with Anna. Something I probably should have said in the go round is I'm not great at like reading and seeing and stuff. So if you type in the chat while I'm talking, I won't read it. So if it's important, yeah, shout it out. I'm totally happy to be interrupted verbally, like completely happy. So yeah, cool. Okay, so yeah, I guess Anna and I had two heads on when we were planning this, like partly getting some information over to you and hearing your thoughts, and then partly obviously thinking about how it would work for you with the young people. So the first kind of activity I'm going to do, I've not done it online before. I do it face to face, so I'm quite excited to see how it will work online. Yeah, so I've got, let me share my screen. Here we go. So I'm going to send a link to a Google slide, which has got all these random bits of text on. You'll be able to move them around to try and work out a definition of what is consensus. There isn't a right answer. I did it twice and I came up with two different things both times, and both of them are like, yeah, that works. So there's no right or wrong. But yeah, it can be nice and engaging for people. So I thought we would give that a go. We'll get into breakout groups to do it. So how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. Let's get into 4 breakout groups. I don't know if Anna or Sian wants to do that. I will copy and paste the link in the chat while we get set up.
Yeah, I'm just making them now.
Oh, nice. I'm just going to check that the slide's editable. Yes, it is.
Can I ask a question, Sharon?
Yes.
If we're all in different, do we have different copies of the slide in each breakout group?
Yeah, so I will let you know, or someone will announce what number breakout group you're in. Then when you get to the Google slides, you'll see there's like a slide for group number 1 and a blank one underneath it, a slide for number 2 and a blank one underneath it. So yeah, hopefully it should work. And if not, I will take on board your feedback.
So Sian, I think because you're the host, it won't let me put you in a breakout room. So could you make me the host? And then it
Yep.
should let me do that.
One sec.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, great.
Didn't tell anyone how long they had. I'll send a message.
What number they were? I just clicked it before I said it.
You did.
Um,
I know.
we can just go into each one and come back.
We can. Yeah. So they got till 1:55.
Cool. Nancy, are you still there? Oh, she's gone.
Oh no, I'll say 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Okay, yeah. Okay.
I'll pop into the rooms to tell them.
Do you want me to do 2 of them?
Should I do 1 and 2 and you do 3 and 4?
Sure, yeah.
I might pause the recording. Oh no, I'll just leave it going, Anna. Otherwise I might forget to restart it.
Yeah, it feels weird with the recording.
Yeah.
But it's fine. This bit will get chopped out.
It will. Oh, yeah, because we'd normally catch up on like the rest of the session now, wouldn't we? But it's been
Yeah, we would.
kind of a gossip. I imagine we're behind time already. I haven't looked at my timing one.
10:02. And this bit goes on till 2. Oh yeah, but then there's the video. So yeah, we probably are a little bit behind.
Okay.
But my benefits of consensus bit is definitely not going to take 20 minutes.
Yeah, great.
Because I've changed the way I'm doing that and it'll be shorter.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Cool.
Oh, Mike is in the waiting room.
Oh. Oh.
I've just submitted him.
I'm just going to pop to the Google Slides. Is that okay? Just to see how they're doing.
So yeah.
Hi, Mike. We're Sharon and Anna running the workshop, and the others are in breakout rooms.
Hi, sorry, I've just started. It's actually Kira.
Oh, it's Kira.
My husband. Hi, sorry.
So your mic for the rest of the session, Kira.
Oh, that's fine. Sorry. Such a rush to get out of school, and then anyway, we're here. We're in one piece.
Yay.
How are you guys?
Good to have you. Do you want me to change your name or?
Oh yeah, if you can, yeah.
Yeah, I think I can.
Oh, I should have
Yeah.
just logged out. He's signed into absolutely everything. So
How do you spell your name, Kira?
CIARA. Thank you.
Yay.
Oh yes.
Cool.
So,
I can pop you in a breakout group. I'll just tell you what they're doing.
yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so they've got a jumble of words that they're trying to reorganize into a definition of what consensus decision making is.
Okay.
Because yeah, this workshop's about consensus decision making, and then next year we'll do one more on facilitation.
Oh, okay, brilliant.
Yeah, and there's
Also, I don't think I've met you guys before, so it's nice to meet you both.
nice to meet you too. Yeah. I'll pop you into a group. What's that?
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'll pop you. Is there anyone you particularly want to go with, or are you?
Nope, no, anyone.
Great. So you're going to go into room number 1.
Perfect.
Actually, before you go, let me share a link with you for the Google Doc, because they're looking at a Google Doc. Because it disappears often when you then go into the breakout rooms. You don't have the chat anymore always. So that is the link.
Perfect.
And then when you're ready,
yeah,
you can join this breakout group 1.
Okay. Oh my God. Oh. And I'm just seeing you.
I think she has herself in a breakout.
Yeah, she's laughing her head off. You're on mute.
I put myself in it.
All right, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's there now. Thank you.
Great.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. Oh, I can tell. I haven't run a workshop on Zoom since September.
It's been a while since I've done one actually.
I can tell. Oh dear. So I'd usually get people to read out the definitions, but there's 4 groups, and I guess that'll take a little while. I don't know whether to do it or not. If I don't do it, the exercise feels a bit incomplete. But we are a fraction behind time.
Yeah, I think one of them has to read it out, but not all of them.
One of the groups.
Yeah, because they might all have a same or similar thing anyway.
Or maybe one group, and then did a group have anything different?
Yeah.
Good compromise. Yeah. Nice. Nice. Oh. I'll broadcast a 3 minutes left message.
Good idea.
I was in a breakout room the other day and it had a countdown timer on it for how long I had left. Don't know if that's a new feature.
I think it gives you 1 minute warning. Is that what you mean? Or it was just different?
As soon as it was like 15 minutes, 14 minutes, 59. It was, yeah.
God, that's cool.
Yeah. Oh. I touched a live wire in the house on Monday.
Oh no.
I
Did
don't
you
know.
get,
I don't know
did you
how.
get electrocuted?
Don't know how I didn't get electrocuted.
Oh,
No,
did you not?
no, I didn't.
Wow.
I
That
was
was
standing.
lucky.
It was. I was standing on a metal ladder. Yeah, there was just a miscommunication. They changed some stuff around, and yeah, it's quite lucky. Yeah, especially up the ladder.
Yeah.
I'm going to close the runs. It runs back. Great. I think looked like 3 out of the 4 groups got something finished. Does one group want to share, read us out the order they put things in?
I can. For group 4, we're slide 7. Consensus, I've lost the slide, hang on. Consensus decision making is a creative and dynamic way of reaching agreement in a group. This means that the whole group has to work hard to find win-win solutions that address everyone's needs. Instead of simply voting for an item and having the majority getting their way, a consensus group is committed to finding solutions that everyone actively supports or at least can live with.
Yeah, nice, thank you very much. And did any group get anything different? When the words are so similar, it's quite hard to tell. Cool.
I think the group 2 is really similar, but still not quite the same.
Yeah,
Yours is a tiny bit different.
Yeah. So when I did it myself, I got it 2 different ways. And I'm the one that wrote the definition, so that made me laugh. Cool. Nice. That's great. Yeah. So yeah, at the very end of this session, I'll be doing a 25-minute bit where we kind of pick 3 of the activities and look at them and how they would work with young people. So we're not going to do that now, but at the end, towards the end, might be one of the ones we pick to see how it would work. I've got a video to show you as well about what consensus is, and then we can see if we've got any questions or anything. Well, a video, a summary, and then any questions. So let me get the video up. Here we go.
Feeling empowered, listened to, and valued. These things are pretty important to us, but we don't usually feel like this after we've come out of a meeting where we've had to make decisions. In fact, we can often feel the exact opposite. Bob does all the talking. Tarek and Sarah support almost everything he says. Nobody has much of a chance to speak, and then there's a vote. Or maybe there isn't a vote, and whatever Bob decides, everybody has to go with. Well, there is another way. Consensus decision making is a process where everybody who's affected by the decision has their say. And the group looks for ways forward that everyone can support. And actually, many of us use informal consensus without even realising it. Picking a holiday, restaurant, or deciding which colour to paint the living room wall. It weaves together everybody's best ideas and key concerns, resulting in creative solutions that everyone's committed to. But for it to work really well, there are some key values, attitudes, and behaviours group members should have. Find out about consensus decision making, clear process, and facilitation in the next video, or find written resources at seedsforchange.org.uk.
Woo. Cool. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen again just to do a little summary of the video, and then we'll see if there's any questions. So that was the last one. Yeah. So it doesn't mean everyone's sitting together in one big meeting, thrashing out every single decision together. You can work in like smaller groups and empower the smaller groups to make decisions. And yeah, again, you don't have to decide every little thing together. And it also doesn't mean you get your favorite option. It's more about an option you can live with, something you can support. But you shouldn't have to compromise a lot. Yeah, it works by finding out what people's kind of deep needs are. And yeah, that's it. So yeah, way of making decisions that weaves together the best ideas and key concerns of people affected by an issue. It finds creative solutions everyone's committed to. Yeah. So any thoughts, questions, surprises, likes, dislikes about that? If not, that's fine. Just give it a few seconds.
I think attendance is going to be the only major issue there. Is, you know, you do the whole consensus thing and you get a group agreement, and then the two guys who weren't in are in the next day, and then, you know, it's dealing with that is probably a problem with us as teachers and students. Yes, yeah, that is a great point. Nice pragmatic point. I'll write that down and we'll think about troubleshooting stuff, and we can always email you some thoughts. Right. Yeah. My initial thought is about like people that this probably wouldn't work in your reality, but like in my ideal world, I'm thinking if people know what's being discussed but they can't make the meeting, they can feed in advance their like wants and needs and stuff like that. But I don't know if that would work for you in reality, but that would be ideal. But yeah.
Cool. Any other thoughts or questions or? Cool. Okay. So I might hand back over to you then, Anna.
Thanks. So yeah, the next kind of thing we're going to think about is the advantages of using a consensus decision-making process over, I guess, other kinds of group decision-making. So I'll just share my screen again. Just give me 1 second. So yeah, consensus is a form of participatory democracy. So everybody kind of directly contributes to decisions, which is different from representative democracy, where people are elected to make decisions on behalf of the whole group. So that could be like a committee or a school council, or on the big level, like a government. And so I guess, yeah, there's kind of advantages and disadvantages to both those processes. But we're just going to give you some time to think again in small groups about what the benefits of consensus are. So you can kind of think about what was touched on in that video, and maybe like disadvantages. So yeah, how it would work in your schools, maybe, of concerns that might make it difficult. And then we'll feedback kind of some of the key things that came out of that. So I'll just stop screen sharing now. So we'll start some breakout rooms again. I'll just mix them up this time. How many people have we got? Yeah, let's do pairs again. And you can put them on this Jamboard, which I'll just show you. So there's slides at the top again, so you can move along depending what group you're in. So there's 1, 2, etc. And then you just add things onto it with the sticky note. You can just type something in and add them. So you can add the benefits on this side and then the disadvantages on that side. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
So if we read out who's in what breakout room number before we open them.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to shuffle them again. That looks like it will work. Yeah. So room 1 is Kira and Julia. Room 2 is Casey and Aideen and Sian. And room 3 is Ashlyn and Kate. And room 4 is Cheryl and Nancy. So I'll start the breakout rooms now, and you'll have 10 minutes. So back at 21 past. Does that make sense?
What's the Jamboard? Is it?
Yes. Oh, sorry. I need to send you a link to that. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll just send it now. Good point. So maybe just try and open that now, just to make sure you can all get on it. Right. I'm going to start the break.
Yeah.
There's 2 people in room 2 already. I might take Kate's place there in room 3 because I know she's having a hard time joining the breakout groups. So I'll join there with Ashlyn, room 3.
Right. Do you need me to move you, or can you move? Oh, oops. So we're a bit behind. Are we? Yeah, we are.
Yeah, I just wrote the times on. Ideally, I'd be starting my bit on process at 2:20.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have 5 minutes leeway.
Do we?
We do.
So if they're coming back at 20 past, and maybe they just, each group just says like one thing for each side. Do you think that would take too long?
No, I think it's important, like in terms of the flow of a workshop, I think when you don't feed back, I think it feels weird.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Might go for a wee though.
Yeah.
They close the breakup. Oh, they are closing. Well done. Are you there, Anna? Good.
Yeah, I was talking to you. I had a different window open and I was chatting away.
You were muted.
I'm mute.
It's funny. I asked you if you were there while I was on mute.
Oh dear. Hello, I think everybody's back. Oh no, maybe some more people joining. No, yeah, that's everyone. Cool. Okay, so maybe we'll just hear from each group like a couple of key things. So maybe just like one key advantage and one key disadvantage, and then hopefully it won't take longer than we've got. So, is there a group that is up for going first? Sharing something that you talked about.
We're one. I'm happy to go first if that's okay. Make it quick.
Yeah, great.
We were just saying that it might work for different levels of students' confidence. You always have a student that's in the class that isn't likely to partake. So depending on your strategy that you use, it can gain a wider confidence. And then a disadvantage, Julie was saying as well, I think she used it in the likes of staff meetings and that as well, is that often when you've got a large agenda to get through, it can be quite laborious, can be a bit tedious to try and get a resolution for an answer. So sometimes it can be a bit difficult to get through your entire agenda. But overall, it generally works.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Group 2, are you up for sharing something?
I'll go because Casey's in the staff room there, so she can't talk. So we actually just kind of silently typed away our post-its because we weren't able to have a chat. But we got a good few filled in. I just trying to, I can't, my laptop's not working properly. I can't get back to the screen if I have this on. What do we say? It can be slower. I think Kira mentioned that as well. And it can be difficult to get the voice of the person who is not, joining into discussions, but that is really good skills. Yes, so something Kira didn't say. Just trying to add. We said that they develop really good skills. So they're learning the skills of consensus decision making. They're learning about how democracy works. They're learning about compromise, which are really good skills to learn. So I suppose it's not wasted time, even though it takes longer if they're learning those skills as well.
Great, thank you. Group 3.
I can chat there. So benefits, kind of said the same as everyone else, but that, the skill building of how to work as a community and the sense of collective is really important in how to resolve situations together as a group. And then also you have the opportunity to change things rather than the decision being made for you, that, you have a chance to have your say and change something that you don't like. Disadvantages, then it needs really good facilitation for it to work effectively, and it can take very long to solve problems or come to a resolution. That's it.
Great, thank you.
And we're doing a facilitation workshop next year, hopefully, aren't we? So yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah, and does someone from the 4th group want to share?
Yeah, I suppose we kind of had much the same things about it taking longer in terms of disadvantages, but also that sometimes, especially with teenagers, that they tend to maybe agree with their friends as opposed to necessarily giving their full opinion. And also then with some shyer students, they may not be as willing to kind of contribute to the class or actually give their true opinion. Just something we've considered. And in terms of benefits, Also, I suppose dealing with teenagers, you know, they can have this kind of winning mentality. It's like, oh, our side won, and you know what I mean? And that it becomes this kind of to and fro, whereas this kind of takes that element out of it. Like it's more about discussing a whole topic and everyone feeling included, as opposed to that kind of me versus them kind of a dynamic, I suppose.
Great, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, and I think what those things kind of drew out both the practical and kind of political benefits of consensus. Like I think the stuff that was mentioned about kind of strengthening community and like having processes of democracy that like actually have political benefits as well is like a big part of consensus. And a lot of the kind of issues that you raised that are potential disadvantages or things that might make it difficult to do this with young people, I think a lot of that also comes down to like having a really clear process and having, like you said, good facilitation of the process, and that can hopefully like level out some of those things, like if there's people that are quiet or like problems with everybody having a say, then having a really clear process can help with that. So we're going to talk about like the conditions for a good consensus process in a bit as well, but Shaz is just going to talk through the process itself now. So I'll pass over to you, Shaz.
Yes, I am. Yeah, so I'll give you a chance to read this, give you a break from my voice. Great, so that's what this process tries to achieve. So we've got two ways of looking at the process. There's 6 logical steps to go through, and the same thing is also represented as a diagram. So we'll take a look at both. I think the steps are first. Or 7 steps. So introducing the issue. So just making sure everyone is clear like what the issue is. I've definitely been in meetings where people think we're discussing different things. Sharing wants, needs, hopes and fears. This is an interesting one because like we're often in hurrying in meetings, and this step can often be missed out and we kind of leap into suggesting ideas and proposals. When you miss this step out, I would say the process actually takes longer overall, because if you don't know what people's kind of needs are and hopes, then the things you're suggesting probably are never going to work. So that's when it becomes a bit time consuming. Like if we're just chatting about what to have for dinner, we're trying to make a consensus decision, and we haven't heard that Anna is celiac, and we're spending all this time in small groups discussing all these pasta and wheat dishes. Yeah, it was never going to work. It's a waste of time. So step 2 is pretty important. Step 3, explore ideas in a broad discussion. Yep. Step 4, form a proposal. Yeah. Step 5, kind of amending, discussing, clarifying that proposal to make sure it's as good as it can be. Testing for agreement. We're going to look at that in more detail after a break. I'm going to have a break after I've done this section, and we'll look at it then. And implement, there we go. That's why I forgot the last one. Great.
Would there be like a circular bit there for after number 6 that you might end up going back to number 5 repeatedly before you get to number 7?
Absolutely. Loads of this little bits can spiral. Yeah. So definitely kind of, yeah, 5 and 6. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You hopefully shouldn't have to ever go right back to the beginning, because yeah, like 1 and 2 wouldn't change. So yeah. And this is it in a diagram. If you prefer diagrams to those steps, this is the same thing. I don't think it's very self-explanatory. If you imagine a line in the middle between connecting issue and decision, the closer you get to that line is agreement, and the further away you'd get from that midline is disagreement. So it kind of shows that it's not this perfect like opening out, coming together. There is going to be little jig jags. You're going to think you've reached agreement, but then X happens, and that's totally normal. Yeah. Cool. Any thoughts or questions on that before we think about it? Cool. Okay, just going to check if I had anything else I wanted to say about it on my little session plan. No, I don't think so. So we're going to go into small groups again. We love small groups. We're going threes this time though. And I do have some questions for you to think about. So the first question is what you like or don't like about that process. The second one is how it's different from any meetings you might have been in before. I feel like that was quite rushed, and yeah, has anyone got any questions about it or anything that wasn't clear? I feel like I just went bang through it really quickly.
Can you show us the previous slide again, just to give us a minute to look at it before you give us the questions?
Yeah,
that's all right.
Yeah.
If that's what we're commenting on, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I will go through, I'll do the I'll do the 7 steps as well. So that's that one.
I keep thinking, looking at this, and even just the whole idea, if you're doing this with a group of 4 or 5 versus you're doing this with a class of 25, really changes everything, whether it's workable, it's not workable, how easy it be to do. That with a round table, sitting around the table, like in the little video, 5 or 6 people in a meeting, is definitely doable. Yeah. But when you've got 25 people in the room, you'd have to break them up into smaller groups. You'd have consensus within the consensus.
You would, and then it's really hard to facilitate smaller groups. Yeah, because you can't be everywhere at once. Yeah, I agree. Definitely easier. Maybe like even in 2 groups. But yeah, 25 is a lot. Yeah.
But I guess the more often you do with them, the more they get used to it, and they'd be able to nearly self-manage at their own tables and stuff. That's where you're reaching success with them, when they can, and if that would speed things up.
Yeah, and especially if you made it quite a rigid structure, like sharing wants, needs, hopes and fears. Like I would always use the facilitation tool of a go round, like everybody takes it in turns to say, and no one else is allowed to talk till everyone's kind of had a go. And if you can give it some good structure, yeah, maybe it would be better. One of the pros, that as in the good things about consensus that wasn't mentioned, that I really value, is that everybody's bought into the idea. When everybody's like discussed it, that they're going to carry it out. If decisions are made and not everyone agrees, it's quite unlikely that they're going to carry out. It's hard to say that without an example. Just thinking where I work with COVID, at the end of a session, we're supposed to do this really thorough clean. And then at the beginning of a session, we're supposed to do a really thorough clean. Now, to me, that's crazy because nobody's been in between. It's just getting cleaned twice. And so I don't like doing it. I really resent it because it makes no sense to me. So even though it's a decision I've signed up to, I probably won't do it very well. Whereas if we had a consensus discussion and I could share my views, and we'd come to a decision that I probably agreed with, and therefore I would implement it. So that's one of the good things about it, I like. So I think it's worth giving a go. Yeah, and that was the diagram. Just give you a minute with that.
I don't understand the JAWS model very well. Are they starting at the issue and they try to get across the decision, or is it that they go up and is it they're going up or down or what?
Yeah, so they're trying to just go for. I agree with you. It doesn't quite make sense. I think diagrams should be self-explanatory, and this one isn't. But yeah, they start at the issue, and then they're trying to get across to the decision. And these jaggedy bits just are supposed to represent that they come together towards an agreement, but then likely they're going to differ again.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
It's not a smooth flow. There'll be little disagreements.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think it needs a line in the middle between issue and decision, maybe like a dotted line which says agreement or something. But yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, that helps.
Cool. Okay, let's stop share. Well, I'll remind you the two questions because I wouldn't remember. So one was, what do you like or not like about the process? And then how is it different from meetings you've been in before? Okay. So breakout rooms, we will mix them up.
Just got some ready for you, Shaz.
Oh, nice. We have it. We have 3 people in a group.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. Somebody's dropped out. Hang on. I'll just recreate them. I think Kate, because maybe her internet was a bit dodgy. So there'll be one room with 2.
Great. Awesome. Well, let's chat. Let's just chat for 5 minutes. So that's coming back at 42, isn't it? Or 43. 2:43. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, should I open them?
That's one of the first times I haven't done the example of like the what do you want for dinner? What should we have for dinner? And to model it, opening it out. So it felt a bit weird when I just read through the steps in the diagram, then was like, right, discuss what you think. But they don't really know it. Like, yeah. Bit weird.
I guess it doesn't have the like experience stage. Maybe that's why it feels weird.
Yeah.
I'll just check if the room Nancy's supposed to be in has got 2 people in it yet. That's good.
Then if it's a short workshop, I guess you can't experience everything unless you're happy just to learn one tiny thing. Yeah. No.
You there, Casey?
Hi, sorry, I don't know what I was doing there. I think I raised my hand, but Casey can't talk because she's in the staff room, and we were going to talk on the chat, but I can't seem to send messages to her, so I don't know why. But she's able to send messages to me, so I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I tried to put 3 of you in the room, but I think Nancy's disappeared for a bit, so we could, I don't know, we could put 1 each of you in the other 2 breakout rooms, maybe.
Yeah.
Where are we? Okay.
Technology.
So I didn't get an invitation out to another one.
Oh, you should do. If you click, have you got a button at the bottom saying breakout rooms?
Oh yeah, join breakout room.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
You're gonna have like 2 minutes anyway. Well.
Oh, just something on my session plan after this, which says facilitator role. And I've just got a great big list. Surely that can't be me doing more talking about what a facilitator does. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. What do you mean a great big list?
I've got a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I've got a list of 14 things that a facilitator does.
On a slide?
In my session plan. Under process. That's weird, isn't it? That's maybe just come from somewhere random.
I think maybe we just scrap that.
Yeah, I don't think it's supposed to be there. I think
because the generalized it basically there's an hour of content after the break.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
the break needs to start by 2:50 basically, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know where that's come from. Yeah.
Should we close the rooms?
Yes. Let me come. I said 43, didn't I? Yeah.
So they've got a minute warning now. Kate's back.
Hey. I keep getting since my computer updated, I get this rubbish that I struggle to get rid of. It pops out the side. Oh, it's gone now. Have you called the breakout rooms back? Yeah, well done. So we ended up with just 2 breakout rooms in the end due to kind of technical difficulties and things. So it'd be good to hear something from each group. Yeah. What you liked or didn't and how it was kind of different from other meetings.
I think we were group 1 first, myself and Aideen, and then Julia and Nancy joined as well. Do one of you want to say anything? Or I can. Yeah, we really liked that it is not majority vote, and we were talking about the real disadvantages to that of having no other option except reject or accept whatever proposals on the table. And especially with big groups, thinking as well on the scale of a school, like teacher decision making as well. So we really liked that this process allows you to have more choices. And then we were talking about some of the practical elements of doing that in a classroom setting, of how some of the steps could be as a full class, and then some of the steps could be in smaller groups, and then kind of separating, having some big discussions, and then, okay, everybody go away and discuss that. We talked as well about groups. This could be done outside of classroom on a bigger scale, of groups having, then nominating a rep to feedback their whatever they had decided to the main group. And we all were also talking about, like, is it still consensus if the teacher comes up with a proposal, but talking about the yes, but then they might be coming up with that proposal based on things that they've heard the students say as well, and that kind of dynamic of the teacher also being part of the group and just being aware of how that works. Okay, I think that's a lot, but so we maybe didn't talk about exactly like or dislike, but yeah, that was a. Does anybody want to add anything?
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, especially the thing about the teacher, because I can imagine a teacher being perhaps much more used to kind of doing the synthesis, like pulling together, finding areas of agreement and stuff, and presenting that to the group. But then, yeah, there's the power role that they have. Yeah, it's really interesting. Thanks. Food for thought. Hello, Jerry-Ann. We're not long off a break, actually, Jerry-Ann. Yeah, you timed that well. We're just going to hear from our second breakout group. Yeah, I have met Jerry-Ann before. I'm not just being over friendly. So the second group, what can you tell us?
I suppose we were talking again about like the numbers thing. So like one of the people in our group has a staff of 170 versus our school, which is 50, and like how that actually works from that perspective. Like she's saying that, you know, generally speaking, you know, people do get their voices heard, but there comes a point where it devolves if you have 170 people, I suppose, and that maybe then it's referred to in an email as opposed to being discussed out if there isn't enough time and things like that, and that's not necessarily a satisfactory conclusion to it. But I suppose the practicalities of it for teachers, certainly sometimes there's limits to what can be done. I suppose a decision does have to be made. Yeah,
that's cool. We have got a guide on facilitation in large groups. I've been places where there's been like a couple of thousand of us using consensus, but it takes longer because you kind of got your small groups, and then someone mentioned a rep, so a rep that meets another group, and then I'm kind of feeding back, because they're not just a delegate, they can't just do what they want, like they have to come back and check in. But yeah, we've got a guide on it, I think. We definitely have, so I'll put a copy of that in the chat at some point. Yeah, thanks. Cool, great. So we were going to go for a break, and then I'll just recap not recap, but remind you what's happening after the break. So we're looking at the different ways of agreeing and disagreeing. We're looking at the conditions for consensus, like what it needs to work well. And then we've got quite a big chunk of time about passing on this knowledge and skills to your young people, like, yeah, what would work, what wouldn't, that sort of thing. Yeah, so that's after the break. Any questions or thoughts before we stop for 10 minutes? No. Okay, cool. Well, let's come back at so it's bang on 3 o'clock then. Yeah, fab.
Thanks.
All right. if you're back but your camera's off, just do a little reaction so that we know you're here. Woo. Yeah, some thumbs ups.
Can I do a reaction anyway, even
Yes,
though my
you may.
video's on?
Yes, you may. Awesome. Cool. Okay, let's go. Great. So I think it's me again, this section. I'm going to look at these ways of agreeing and disagreeing. So they might be familiar to you, they might not. Let me share my screen. Okay, so first of all, I did have something to say about facilitation, actually, it seems. Yeah, facilitating the process. Like someone mentioned, it needs good facilitation, and that will be tricky, I guess, if you have to split your classes. But yeah, facilitation is about helping the group have an effective and inclusive meeting, and also making sure everyone can be involved in discussions and decisions, like the ship won't steer itself. And that's exactly what you guys said. And I've got here, what sort of things does someone facilitating consensus have to do? I don't think we've got time for that today, but we are going to have a whole nother session on that. So yeah, that'll be grand. And then it was Anna, time for a break. Welcome back. Here we go. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Ways of agreeing and disagreeing. So yeah, it's not black and white. We have a spectrum of agreement. At one end, not agreeing at all, and the other end, completely agreeing. So we call them block, stand aside, reservations, and agreement. Yeah. And the next slide. Yeah, no, cool. Okay, so those four. And let me just see what I wanted to say about them, how I was going to explain them. If I don't refer to my notes, I'll just waffle. So agreement is, yeah, I support the proposal and I'm willing to implement it. Nice and simple. Reservations is that you've got some issues with it, but you're going to go along with it. You'll let it pass, and you'll put energy into making it happen. You just kind of want your concerns noted. Yeah. If there are lots of people with reservations, the group would probably amend the proposal a bit. Standing aside is you can't support the proposal, but you don't want to stop the group. You'll let the decision happen, but you won't implement it. That might be because you disagree with it, or maybe it's just pragmatic reasons, like you don't have enough time to do that thing. You'd have rather have done something smaller, and yeah, you can't do it, but you don't mind it going ahead. Yeah. Blocks. Now, blocks should be unlikely, because that's stage 2 of the consensus process, where you are sharing kind of wants and needs. If those have been taken into account, there's no reason someone should block a proposal. So yeah, blocking is when you have a fundamental disagreement with the core of the proposal, and that's not been resolved. So yeah, need to look for a new one. It stops the proposal being agreed. It's definitely like, I cannot live with this. It isn't, I don't really like it. So that might be something you have to help the young people get their heads around. Recording in progress.
Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. So yeah, the block is really strong. Some groups have agreements about when the block can and can't be used. Like some groups say you can't block for a personal reason. It has to be because the decision goes against the principles of the group. Other groups might say, yeah, if you block, you then have to then come to a meeting with a couple of other people and try and work out how you can resolve it. So yeah, there's lots of little things there about the block. Yeah. Any questions about those 4 different ways of agreeing or disagreeing? Put them up again. So in the real world, if we were having a consensus discussion and we kind of thought we had a proposal, when it comes to testing for agreements, I would say, is there any blocks? And there shouldn't be. Is there any stand asides? And there might be. Note down how many there is. Are there any reservations? Yeah. Yeah. How many people are in full agreement? And there's no rules about how many stand asides or reservations you should or shouldn't have. I guess it just depends on the size of your group, what the group finds acceptable. Yeah.
Can I ask something, Sharon?
Yes.
Like, I know ideally there shouldn't be a block because, you know, the whole process of developing the proposal has come through the group, but what is best if you did get a block? Does that mean kind of going back a few steps back in the process and revisiting the proposal again?
Yeah, so finding out what the person's like fundamental issue with it is, and if it's that they just don't like it, you can explain about stand asides. If it's that they have a real genuine issue, then yeah, it's finding out, yeah, what is it that they need that isn't being met, what's the problem, and trying to resolve that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. And yeah, and I guess it depends on your group, but it's very brave to block and express disagreement. And like, so yeah, it's not necessarily a disruptive thing. Like, yeah, so not, yeah. See, look, I'm waffling. This is why. Yeah.
I guess I'm not a secondary school teacher, so I don't know, but I guess I'm remembering my own school days. And when you use the word disrupt, I'm like, yeah, some of my classmates used to do that. So I guess I was just thinking of it in that context.
Yeah, so maybe having clear rules about when, you know, what reasons you can and can't block, and being really clear about the stand aside and what that's for. Yeah, and people often say block. You know, adults, mature, well-meaning adults will often say they're blocking, and you're like, are you blocking or is that a stand aside? And you explain it and they're like, oh yeah, I'm standing aside. Yeah.
And when somebody stands aside, it means I'm not going to be an obstruction, but I have some reservations about this.
Yeah, it means they're not going to implement it. Yeah.
Okay, so it's still not ideal, because really one of the objectives of consensus is everybody feels motivated to work towards the decision that's made because they participated in the decision.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, definitely still not ideal. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I guess the stand aside is like a kind of a tricky one in the context of school, because like if you were like, consensus quite often used in like campaign groups, for example, and if you had a proposal for like a new campaign that your group was going to take on, and there was a stand aside and somebody said, yeah, I'm happy for the group to go ahead with this campaign, but I'm not going to participate in working on the campaign, then that would be fine. But I guess in a school context, it's more difficult, because the thing that you decide, like, you kind of have to do if you're at school. So I guess that's really important question. And I don't know, like, it makes the stand aside thing in consensus difficult. And I guess it kind of shows how like using this process within like a power structure that is a school that is like has like a authority basis to it, like makes it difficult. So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts or like suggestions about that, but yeah, I think it's like a really good question.
I think it really depends on the context. I think if, you know, depending what the proposal is and what decision making is about, if it is something that's going to be an action that the class are going to be working on, then you might have to at the beginning say there is no stand asides allowed. Everyone's part of the team and everyone's going to be working on it. But if it's it's something different, or if it's something like, you know, where somebody might not be in for 3 weeks and it's going to take part during those 3 weeks. Well, then it's like, well, you're not going to be here anyway. That's fine. You can stand aside. So it's going to depend on what it is, and if there's alternative jobs that student could do possibly. And you're going to, so if whether it's something that you're deciding on that's going to take place the following week, or whether it's something you're deciding on that's going to be taking place for 6 months, you know, so I think context is important as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Could I add? Just thinking on what I think Anna was saying there about the well, there's certain authorities already that are in the school, and there's, like, you know, as Aileen saying, that's part of the context. I mean, I think it would be fine to also kind of state kind of extra ground rules perhaps at the beginning and say, well, we can like make certain decisions up to a point, but then, you know, if people have some ideas that go beyond what the school boundaries can allow us to do for now, we've got to remember that and not kind of get all kind of over ruffled about it or whatever, and say, look, we can do what we can in this context, but these skills obviously outside you could then use for further things, but yeah, they're in school, so they got to work with that.
Yeah, that's a great point too. Yes. Yeah, thanks.
It's also a realistic life lesson. It's like, you know, we reach consensus as much as we can, but it mightn't be 100%. I know that goes back to what is consensus. You know, it's you know, sometimes you're going to have to do something, you know.
Yeah, and consensus is about decisions people can live with. It's not about having a favorite option. So yeah. Cool. Okay. Great. Any more thoughts on that?
One last thing, I was just having a quick look at what all the, well, what people put down for consensus benefits and difficulties before. I think one I just wanted to throw out there was kind of the idea that, like what you're saying, that things that you can live with. So it's not like just about your favorite option or your number one option, but like kind of, and it's a slow process, but people a little bit at a time kind of start thinking beyond what's just good for them and trying to see what's good for the group, or in whatever shape that takes. So a little at a time, you kind of try to stop thinking about your own interests and ego, but it takes a lot of time. And I also am interested to see how in a teenager context, that's different.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking, that, yeah, as a teenager, like, because we struggle with adults getting them to differentiate between what's a want and what's a need. That they're different things. And so, yeah, I imagine that might be even harder with teenagers. I don't know, but a little while since I worked with teenagers.
And they're young teenagers, remember, we're talking about first years and second years here. So we're talking about 12, 13-year-olds. You know, that's a huge thing. I mean, I don't know how many times I had the conversation with my kids. You know, you don't need a phone, you want a phone. It's like,
yeah, fair point. Yeah. Great. Okay, Anna, I'm going to hand over to you about the conditions for consensus.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, so I think this kind of picks up on quite a lot of those questions about particularly doing this with young people in schools, but I'm just going to share this slide about the conditions that make consensus work well. So some of the things that are kind of necessary for successful consensus is time. So obviously people mentioned before that like this can be a more time consuming process than just like having a majority vote. But part of what is good about consensus is that, like Shaz was saying, like once people are kind of bought into a decision and they kind of get behind it, then it's more likely that things will get implemented and that it will be more efficient. So it can actually save time in the long run. But yeah, obviously having sufficient time to do the process. And then a common goal. So everyone in the group sharing a common goal that you're working towards. And that can be like a good thing to come back to as well if like disagreements come up, or there's kind of like a struggle to meet consensus. Coming back to that common goal and the kind of common aim that people have can sort of show you that like sometimes those differences are not that fundamental. A commitment to consensus is really important. So like everyone needs to be willing to give it a go. And especially I think at the beginning when people are first like getting used to a consensus process, it does take a bit of time and it takes like a bit of commitment and like sticking with the process instead of just jumping to a majority vote. Yeah, so that commitment. And then trust and openness is also important. And that's again something that like definitely improves over time. So like people in the group, because consensus is a process that like draws out people's kind of deeper needs in a decision, then it's really important that people have that trust with each other. So again, like that's something that is maybe more difficult in a larger group, but I think it's like part of the practice of like learning how to do consensus well. It's like learning how to be more open. Having a clear process, I think this is kind of actually the most important, like from experience in groups I've been in, like the most important part of consensus is like having a really clear process that everybody knows what's happening, everybody knows how the decision gets made. And I think like particularly in a school or with a bigger group, that's even more important. And I guess like, yeah, the bigger the group, the more kind of clear structure you need around the process. So yeah, it might be like kind of adding that stuff at the beginning that Nancy was saying about like, this is the kind of limits of the decision that we're making within the school. And then, yeah, just being like maybe having a process of like a go round that is part of that sharing needs and like facilitating each bit really clearly so that everybody gets a chance to contribute. And active participation. So yeah, like in consensus, it relies on everybody being really active in their participation in the process. So it doesn't work if like people just kind of sit back and let other people decide. And again, like that's another way in which like in our culture and particularly in secondary schools, I think like it's not something that people are used to doing. It's kind of actually like quite often discouraged, I think, in a school environment, like people really participating and taking ownership of like decisions about what they're doing. So yeah, like everybody being kind of aware that that's really important, that they are actively participating. And again, that's something that I think develops with time. So yeah, those are the kind of different conditions. And just before we talk about a bit more about them in a second, but does anybody have any questions about any of those? I can't see anyone's hands on screen sharing, so just shout out if you have. Okay, cool. So yeah, thinking about those conditions, I'm just going to give you 5 minutes to just individually think about your group or your workplace or your family. So I've said like different options there, but you could just think about, yeah, your workplace in the school, and what would make consensus difficult. And just you can have, yeah, so just be 5 minutes, you can turn your camera off and maybe you can write something down on a piece of paper if you want, or just think about it. And then in 5 minutes we'll come back and just do a go round and hear from everybody like one condition from the slide and why you think that's important. So yeah, 5 minutes thinking on your own, and then we'll do a go round, and I'll leave that slide up so you can see it. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Great.
Wow. All right.
Cool.
That's back at 15:25.
Yeah. Thanks, Shaz. Okay, that was 5 minutes. If you want to turn your camera back on when you're ready, or just come back. Thanks. Cool. So yeah, if we could just go around and hear from each person, like if you choose one of those conditions and say like why it's important and maybe how it would feel like it was important in your context. Have you got something to say, Shaz?
I have. I was just thinking, how long should we aim to be speaking for each?
Very good point. How long do we have? Yeah, we've got like 5 minutes actually, so maybe 30 seconds each, if that's doable. Yeah, so just super quick as you can would be good. Does anyone want to start us off? Thanks, Ashley.
I chose active participation because I think that it's very hard for people to do that. We haven't really been trained into that process. Like we've always just been rule abiding and this is the rule and you follow it and you don't question it. So I think when it comes to a meeting and everyone's asked to give their opinion, it's actually quite hard for people to come forward because we've just been used to just being told what to do. So I suppose giving people maybe prompts and things to kind of help pull out their answers and giving them time to each speak or write down what they want to think beforehand. Because I think we're not used to having opinions on rules. That's me.
Thank you. Yeah. Does anyone else want to go for it?
I will. I picked clear process. This might not be, I'm not coming from the context of thinking about managing consensus in a school setting. So this is more me personally in groups, and it often is the case that we have to make a decision, but we're really not all quite sure. We know generally what area, like, yeah, we're making a decision broadly on, like you mentioned, I think, Hannah, like maybe running a certain campaign. But actually the decision might end up, some people think we're making a really specific decision, like, are we going to hold this event? But actually really what we're making a decision on the overall tactics we might be using, or kind of our understanding of how we're bringing about change. So sometimes, yeah, some people that think the process is quite narrow and like we're making a concrete decision about this thing, and other people are thinking the process is much broader and we're making decisions that are a little bit more theoretical. So that's confusing and difficult.
Yeah, I can go there. I was just thinking about a few different contexts, like in my life, and I think time kind of covered most of them probably. I think it kind of lends into some of the other ones. I think if there's not sufficient time allocated, then some of the other ones could kind of get affected as well. Like the commitment could kind of drop a bit if you feel under pressure for time, or the active participation. People might want to rush things if they feel that they don't have enough time. And just for me anyway, I think my life is busy, and to say my family or different teams I've been involved in, everybody I think these days kind of is tight for time. So I think it's really important to have a set time like outlined, and everybody knows what that time is and knows what time they're putting in, so that, you know, there's kind of an end goal and it's not going to go on forever. They know that, but you know, things like that, I think, and the clear process as well. But time was the main one for me.
Thank you. Casey's microphone isn't working, so I'll just read what they put in the chat. Trust and openness. Students feel free to express their own experiences, opinions and solutions, free to offer more creative solutions, fewer barriers to the process, can effectively learn the skill of consensus decision making when they feel safe doing so. Thanks, Casey. Who wants to go next?
I can go. So one thing that might be hard would be making the jump from and like someone who's experienced in consensus trying to demonstrate the process, and like people doing it for the first time, and say a group of students in a small group. I feel like when you guys did some workshops in my school before, students kind of came out of the workshops going like, oh, so that's the process. Like that they really liked having, you know, steps 1 to 7, like really clear. And so, but that having that as a visual on a wall or something that, you know, made it really accessible to know what the steps are, to follow them, even if you're new to it, could be good. And then another thing that's really hard is if people don't have a shared understanding of what circumstances the block is valid in. That came up in a group of young people recently, and it's very difficult to fix it after the fact. So it's good to decide it before it comes up. Like the thing about a block not being valid if it's only for personal reasons, for example, or yeah, deciding that in advance is probably a really good thing, and putting it in like, again, like some kind of visual or some kind of reminder. Oh, that's what that is. So.
Thanks, Sherry-Ann. Anybody else? So I feel like, because we're tight for time, like if it's okay with people who haven't said things yet, we could move on. I just want to make sure that everyone who had wanted to say something had a chance. But if not, we could move on to the next bit. Cool, let's do that. Over to you, Shaz.
Yeah, great. And yeah, so I've got a question. So this is like the final part of the session before we close, and it was about like passing on this knowledge and skills to the young people. And what I planned to do was I'd imagined us like looking at the things we'd done. I'll just read out what they were. Yeah, so looking at like the what is consensus, the benefits of consensus, the process, the ways of agreeing and disagreeing, and the conditions for consensus. Like picking 3 of those and thinking like, yeah, how well or not would it work with young people? What do we need to do differently if you were kind of training up the young people? That's what I thought we should do. I'm now wondering, would it be more useful for you just to have a general conversation about how consensus in general will be great or tricky with your young people? So I'm wondering what one would be more useful for you. Does anyone have any thoughts? And then we could take a little vote. Or any questions? Was that actually clear, the 2 different options? Option 1 was looking at specific activities that we did, and how would you then run those to train up the young people. Option 2 is a general discussion about consensus and the pros and cons for it with young people and a bit of problem solving.
Probably the first one for me, I think.
First one, cool. Option 1 sounds more practical. Cool. Yeah, I'd planned option 1, so let's do option 1. Just wanted to give you the choice. Cool. Okay, I'll get back to my little slides. Da-da-da. Great. Yeah, so that experiential learning cycle may be familiar. So yeah, we're just going to reflect on what we did, suss out how well it worked, how well it would or wouldn't work with young people, and then the apply is what we need to consider doing differently. So these are the things we did. Be good to pick 3 of them. We won't pick them by consensus because we don't have the time. But maybe if somebody shouts one of them, we can suss out the 3 that we're going to look at.
I think ways of agreeing and disagreeing came up a couple of times, of like the challenges around the block, and that might be one be useful to look at.
Great, thanks. And another 2.
Maybe the second one, the consensus process, was that the one with the 7 steps?
Yeah, the
Maybe
process.
different ways and opinions people have done it or go about it or what we could do.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I agree.
I think the first one, what is consensus? I mean, as the activity as we did it, you just do it that way. It was excellent. So maybe we could look at benefits, or the other 2 that are left, and the benefits or the conditions, is it?
Yeah.
Benefits might be good for, I'm just thinking, and the teachers will know better, of ways of making it clear how this will be really useful to the students, to kind of how to get that across.
Yeah, because we were actually doing that from a teacher's point of view, weren't we? So it'd be very interesting. Would you do that with students? Would you get that? Would they be able to fill in the post-its like the way we did? So that could be a good one to talk about, how or would you do it with students?
Yeah, good idea. Great. Dun, dun, dun. Cool. So I've got those 3 written down. So yeah, let's just stick as a whole group, I reckon. So the questions are, yeah, what did we do? How well or not would it work with young people? And what would we need to do differently? I'll stop the screen share so we can all see each other nicely. And if you want reminded of the questions, I'll pop them in the chat. Yeah. Cool. So just pop them in the chat now. So the first one was the ways of agreeing and disagreeing. Yeah, in terms of what we did, it was pretty standard, wasn't it? I just spoke to you about it. Nothing exciting there. Over to you.
So in that context, would it be useful to come up with an example, like a hypothetical example of a proposal, like and imagining a couple of people blocking it or standing aside or proposing an amendment? Would that work as a way of doing it with students?
Potentially, yeah, more kind of like a case study, I suppose, with kind of a practical example. But also, I think, like Jerry Ann was saying, having the visual like reinforcement for them of what each thing means as well, so that they can apply it themselves. Like, oh, what does that mean again? And kind of working it out, like they're going to remember it better if they've had to actually apply it, I suppose.
Can I ask Sharon and Anna how they do it when they do this workshop with students?
So I've only done it with young people, only a couple of groups, a group here in Lancaster, face to face, and then the lovely SCAN group in Ireland. Ways of agreeing and disagreeing, I do just tend to talk through. The process I do more experientially when we've got more time. Like I run a consensus decision, I facilitate it. So people have had a real experience and I kind of talk about the process. But yeah, the ways of agreeing and disagreeing, I do just tend to talk about. But examples would be much better for young people. So I'll think about that for next time.
Yeah, I think a case study is a really good idea, Cheryl was saying. And I wonder, could you do like kind of a mock run through of one with like a really, really simple decision to be made, like really easy. I don't know if there's any easy decision to be made, but like that kind of idea, and you maybe choose a few of them to do it as like a demo, a student demo or something, and they get an idea. You could prep them a little bit, the 4 or 5, and then rest watch or something.
And it could be something really simple, like what, you know, we're going to take an extra day off school this year. Should it be the day after Paddy's Day or the day after Halloween or something like that? You know what I mean? And it's like going through the process really quickly, just to explain, you know, someone could block it because it's their birthday, they don't want to go to school.
You could have role play cards.
Yeah. You could have little role play cards for certain people in the classroom, and setting them up to, you block now with this reason or something, you know.
Might be different with young people, but with adults, I often tell them, don't worry, you don't need to role play. There'll be enough disagreements. It's like, we just do a really simple one. We often do, we're going to have a shared meal. What shall we have? And actually, you've got people with intolerances, you've got vegans, you've got people who want their meat. Like, it just happens naturally. But yeah.
We tried doing that with first years recently, and it was a decision about what to spend a couple of €100 on for a feast for first years of a meal. But unfortunately, they all instantly agreed that they all just wanted margarita pizza with and that nobody had any intolerances to anything. So it was really still didn't work. So yeah, you could do it as a whole group where they all get to practice saying which option they're choosing. Or you could maybe break into groups of four or so and get them to try to facilitate it themselves, and then, or maybe 5, and different people in the group might choose different options, or they all might agree, but they have just to think about, okay, which option am I? I think it'd be quite quick, and then you could just keep that visual of those 4 options up on the wall with a sentence under each one about what it means, maybe. So yeah, I think either a whole class scenario or a small group scenario. Maybe with roll cards. Maybe.
Or a bit more abstract, but you could also do it on an individual level. Like, you list out some scenarios, and as individuals they decide whether they'd block, stand aside reservations, or agree. You could have like 10 different ones to go through.
It could be a good way to explain and to have that discussion then around, is that a valid reason for blocking? Is that a good reason for blocking? And I get the class agreement then on, you know, when is it okay to block? You know, and I have that discussion around personal reasons and stuff, and one person versus the group and all that.
Yeah, I like that. That sounds faster than doing small groups, I think.
Yeah, you could have the roll cards in reserve in case the decision's too easy, and then you say, okay, now let's spice it up.
It all comes back to time, isn't it? Yeah, if you've got like quick class or a long class, and you have how much time you have to spend on it, and how prepared you are.
Could I ask a question there? Just when we were saying, like, teaching to the kids, when is it a good idea to block? Like, when is it a good idea to block, or what would be a valid reason for blocking? Just an example there.
So yeah, so different groups have different rules. So like in some groups you could probably block, you know, like for any reason. In other groups, maybe groups with less trust, you can only block if the proposal goes against like the aims of the group. But yeah, that's not like the norm. That's just like, yeah. So yeah, it would be up to the group to decide, like some ground rules probably for when you can or can't block, and also what happens if you do block. Is it your responsibility to then like meet with a couple of people to find something that will work if you run out of time, or yeah.
Okay. I was going to ask that as well. So say somebody blocks, like as a teacher, then do you kind of, and like say you really need something to be decided and it's one person, do you ever override them? And if it's, say they're being ridiculous about the block, you know, maybe they don't have a really, you know, they don't have a valid reason, say, and they're just doing it to be difficult. Like, how would you handle that then, without kind of devaluing the whole process?
I don't know. And this is why I'm not a teacher. Because I could never, I can't impose any rules. I'm useless.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
I can imagine a scenario where if you know that the student either is being difficult or maybe has just a particular kind of thing against somebody else who proposed it. It could be like a personal thing and it's not about the actual decision. I suppose I would consider suspending the process, like
bending the student.
Yeah.
trying to talk with them separately, because obviously trying to bring it out in the group probably wouldn't help, because there's that heightened level of, you know, being judged and all that stuff right in their face, and you probably can't move it forward at that point. So I figure either in a small group or asking another classmate to have a word with them, or yourselves, or whatever feels like might be an easier place to talk with that particular person. But trying to, you couldn't, the whole thing would fall down if you just override a block once, then every time it would happen.
True, but if you allow certain individuals to keep blocking regularly because they like the disruption it causes, the whole process is not working then either. So I think if the overarching goal of the consensus is being met, maybe you might sometimes need to. I mean, that's where teacher and classroom skills are going to kick in, you know what I mean? I mean, every context is going to be different. I don't think there's one answer for that question. I think it's going to be depending on the situation. Like if the group has agreed to the next action project they're going to do, or the next climate action they're going to take is they're going to go outside and do litter pick, and person's blocking because they don't want to go out and their hair will get fuzzy. You know, okay, well then we'll give you a hat and we'll still go ahead. Your block is vetoed. You can have an umbrella, you know.
Well, you could try to explain the stand aside again.
Yeah.
And bring it down a level.
Yeah, like Sharon said, often a block might actually be a stand aside. Yeah.
And also going back to like, I call it chunking up, but like going back to the real need. So like that hair getting fuzzy thing, probably a pretty genuine concern when you're that age. So it like that person's issue isn't that they can't go outside, it's that they can't get frizzy hair.
Yeah.
So getting them to identify, okay, well, the proposal for me needs to mean my hair doesn't get frizzy.
Or we don't go outside if it's a wet day. We go, you know what I mean? It's
or your umbrella, like you said. It's getting them to articulate what's the real problem. It's not going outside. It's the frizzy hair. Yeah. And the other thing I was thinking, I've lost it now, but it was good. It was about the block. So normally I would say with a group, like, if you block, it's that you feel so strongly that if the proposal went ahead, you'd have to leave the group. But obviously in school, they don't really have the choice of leaving the group. So again, it's that, I think I've only really worked with consensus when it's like people are attending voluntarily. And this is very different. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there's another way you could think about that though, because some of those consensus decisions will be taken amongst students in groups where they're working together. And it could be the students like, well, I'm going to leave this group and go join another group.
Yeah.
So they do have they do have some agency, even though, you're absolutely right. There's power structure. They can't say, oh, I'm leaving the class or I'm leaving school, but
that's true. And that's quite empowering to like, cool.
Yeah, like if you have 4 groups working on where you've given them themes, but they're deciding then exactly how they're going to act out each theme, or what they're going to do, they could decide to, I'll leave this group and go leave the litter group and go work for the energy group or whatever, Yeah.
Another suggestion for helping to resolve whatever comes up is, I suppose, again, time limits and all that. But if as the group gets more confident about what they're doing in the process, trying to get solutions from the group themselves, so that if they can kind of guide themselves, and that if the young people can impose whatever it is that they need among themselves, or point out where people are being difficult, or is it a real difficulty, or find that in between solution, instead of them seeing again the authoritative teacher kind of telling them what to do, because they'll probably listen to their peers, I think, a little quicker. Not always, but they might take it on board easier.
Yeah, I definitely find that. Yeah, if you're trying to get them even to be quiet, you know, a lot of them like just start telling them to kind of be quiet if they want to get going with something. Yeah, so that could work all right.
Well, I wonder, does that beg the question then that you completely pass this over to the students, and that the students actually facilitate this, and you kind of stand on the sideline and then let them orchestrate as much as possible? We'll see how much they can do of it without maybe little interference from you. It'd be you'd have to judge your class and judge their skills and behavior issues.
I think that nearly works better with this, because it fits with the kind of philosophy of consensus. So like that thing of, if there's someone blocking, like the group will suggest solutions for that themselves, I think.
Yeah,
but the
I think
students, like if they've spent a while discussing something, there'll be enough students frustrated with that they'll be motivated to like be thinking, what do we do now?
Yeah. And more likely to speak to each other, as opposed to if you're kind of there leading it, maybe more likely to.
I think I kind of feel like I always need to be there listening, but it's like stopping yourself from trying to fix things too quickly, because they actually can fix things themselves really well. But like I think that thing of, maybe if there is a valid block, if a valid block comes up, that it might, the person blocking and maybe a few other people who are, want to help solve it, might be willing to meet up, need to be willing to meet up. If there's time pressure, and the decision has to be made quickly, they might need to be willingness to meet up, like after the class to try and figure out a proposal. But if people know that in advance of blocking, then it doesn't seem like punishment, do you know what I mean, afterwards.
That sounds good. So I think that sounds like a really useful discussion, so we kind of let it go on a bit, but we've probably just got 5 minutes now for the consensus process, to have a chat about that one. And I imagine that actually links really nicely with what you were just saying about letting them get on with it, for example. But yeah, in terms of like passing on the skill of the consensus process, we've already had mentioned like having it up on the wall and stuff. I mentioned that I facilitate a consensus decision as a nice example. Any other ideas? Because I just talked through it with you and that felt really weird, because it's a shorter session, we didn't have time to kind of go through it. So yeah, I can't imagine just talking through it will work with the young people.
You definitely have to have examples. If not, like a little proposal or a little, like, question we need to make a decision on today, ready to rock, like a short, easy one, that wouldn't take too long to come to it. But yeah, you'd have to actually, I think, participate in it to fully understand the steps.
I also agree with like the kids taking over,
Yeah.
and taking charge of it. And as I say, that would probably actually nearly eliminate a lot of the issues with it. But you do have to train them into it initially, and that they understand how this whole thing works. So I suppose it then comes back to the idea of like modeling it or role playing it, or just that it's just really clear what they're trying to do. And that common goal thing then I suppose comes in there as well, that they are realizing that this is all for a certain purpose, and that's the end point that they're trying to reach. And sometimes they might have creative ways of getting there, but at least it'll still kind of ground the whole thing in what it's supposed to be, I suppose.
I think the important thing with all this as well is doing this early before you get to the stage where you actually do need them to make an important decision, because when an important decision needs to be made, you want to be able to kick straight into the process. You don't want to sit down and start explaining what is consensus and decision making and going through. So you nearly kind of want to do all this early on with little role plays and ideas, so that when you actually need it to be done properly, they know what to do, they know what you're talking about. And again, that's all, you know, getting it into the scheme of work maybe early on in the year. I think I might be doing this straight after Christmas because we're planned up until Christmas.
So do a few practice runs.
Yeah. There's a couple of classes in this all the same, isn't there? I mean, going through the different steps, having the discussions, doing a practice one, like, and then actually making a decision for real. Like, yeah, just actually spend a week or two on it.
Sorry, I had to pop out there a sec, but I just wanted to make a little point in case, I don't know if we've mentioned it, but obviously if a decision actually gets made and most folks are happy about it, it can feel like a big relief at the end of whatever session. But it might be, and I don't think I've done this too much because I haven't been like teaching consensus as such or trying to like convey it in that sense. But when a decision perhaps doesn't quite get to a conclusion, but they've practiced loads of good steps and all that, having some sort of small moment of good reflection of all the things that did get practiced and managed, and even if it didn't come to like the end point that we all wanted, but kind of to rescue all the good stuff that did move forward, and the fact that this is a really slow build up, even if that day the decision isn't there yet.
Are you talking about COP26 here by any chance? Because it just sounds exactly like that.
Oh, they're another kettle of fish. They don't do consensus. I wish though.
Nice. Cool. Sounds good. Well, I think we did a nice amount of talking about the most important one, which was the ways of agreeing and disagreeing. So might leave it there and hand over to Anna for last final part.
Yeah, we've just got a few minutes, so we'll just close up really. So maybe if everyone could just share one thing that you are excited about or you want to think about more from the workshop today. We've just got a couple of minutes, so just keep it short. Does anyone want to kick us off?
I just want to say thanks a million, ladies. I just really enjoyed today, and I'm definitely going to do this with my two groups, my first years and my second years. So I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, I don't do enough of this, and I think sitting at this workshop has made me kind of realize that I should do more of it. Obviously our classes are all time dependent, but there's definitely room there that you could do some elements of it. And just the scope for change.
I suppose a lot of the time, again, with the time pressure thing, you're just trying to get things done. And I don't necessarily think that personally I've paid much attention to how we make decisions, and that's really something you shouldn't be overlooking. Like, it's kind of a fundamental thing for them to see even how democracy works, how to kind of participate properly in discussion, like, and that one voice isn't just taking over the entire thing. I know certain classes have definitely, that's happened for me. There's certain characters tend to take over, and that just to be maybe more conscious of that and facilitate it better and maybe plan it better.
And I think as well with climate action, I don't know for yourselves, but in our school it was options, so they mightn't have necessarily got the option they wanted. So some of them are in the class and don't necessarily want to be there. But I say anything that is going to encourage, it being their work, their decision, they were part of the process. It's going to, I think, increase buy-in and their participation, and so that's what I'm hoping will help with as well.
I think the same as Cheryl, just giving it a bit more structure and planning it a bit better, rather than just checking for consensus and then moving on. But I think having a bit more structure to it and allowing everyone to contribute a bit more, I'm going to try and do more often.
I really enjoyed it as well. And I feel like I knew kind of the theory around some of it, but I just kind of understand it now much more, and I think feel probably more confident trying it in more classes. I feel like I've been doing bits, but not really well, if that makes sense. So I feel kind of more, yeah, just confident, I suppose, with it. So yeah, I actually just have to go there. So thanks very much again. Bye. Thanks.
Hey, thanks.
Thanks.
Julia, bye.
I can go. I'm excited to hear back. Maybe, I guess the next time we'll all meet is early next year. So I'm excited to hear back how it goes, or how like applying some of this to your classes goes. And particularly excited about this workshop because I think it's applicable to so many different areas of the course, to whatever subject, like, oh, we're going to do something about food, or we're going to do something you know, about a different theme that's part of the course, but this applies to kind of all of that, because there's so much, it is about climate action, so it's about taking action. So yeah, really, really great. Thanks so much, Anna and Sharon.
I haven't checked, but I'm just wondering about some of the slides, Sharon and Anna, that you showed today. Are they shared with us already, or could we borrow them?
Yeah, I think we could send you them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll send you them.
Okay.
And we'll send you the Jamboards and stuff as well. So
yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Casey said in the chat, excited to use consensus decision making as part of an upcoming project where it's very much needed and something that wasn't at the forefront of my mind. Thank you for the eye opener. I have a better idea of how to go about it. Great. Has anybody else not shared anything that wants to say something before we go?
Just thank you. I'm still trying to get better at doing this, teaching this, still doing it badly. So
Yeah,
I doubt
I'm
that
super
somehow.
I think Jerry-Ann has high expectations. It takes time. Yeah, I'm super interested to hear how it goes with teenagers, because I've only done workshops, but not this kind of stuff with teenagers. It's hard enough with everyone anyway, so don't yeah, take your time with it. And it's really cool though to hear all your comments just now, because it can be so useful for so many areas. But actually maybe we shouldn't again underestimate teenagers, and maybe it's not so hard. Maybe they'll take to it more naturally because they take it up in younger years, and it'll be with them for a good while. So looking forward to hearing everything in January. Brilliant. Thanks.
Kate said, really great to hear all the teacher contributions and teasing out the practicalities, and thanks for facilitators for a much needed refresh. Fab. I think that's everybody. So thank you all very much for coming, and I hope you all have a nice evening, and we'll see you in the new year.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Great to
so
see
much.
you.
Thanks, Anna and Shaz.
Bye. Have a great
Deadly.
evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.
Yay.
Great. That was amazing. They loved it.
Lovely.
Nice.
Yeah.
Stop the recording.
And you always pace it so much better than we do, because